From Rats to Riches: How to Become a Self-Made Millionaire. The Psychology of Getting Rich. Who are you really? How do you define yourself? In today's world, we tend to define people by their most notorious qualities. Someone who is proficient in the methods of making money, building businesses, and running organizations, we would call a businessman. Someone who spends most of his or her time and money on charitable actions, we would call a philanthropist. Someone who spends most of his or her time in a casino, we would call a gambler. And someone who sleeps on the sidewalk on Fifth Avenue, we would call homeless. So we define people based on their values, habits, and character, and we tend to judge people based on their appearance, social status, and persona. I call it the 6 human definitions. If you look into this formula, you will discover that throughout your life, you've been judged and defined by these 6 human definitions. By yourself and by those around you, people who know you well will define you based on your values, habits, and character. People who only meet you for the first time or did not have the pleasure of spending much time around you will judge you based on your appearance, social status, and persona. You define yourself based on these 6 human definitions as well, and subconsciously your life is a reflection of these 6 human definitions. If you can gain the power to change or redesign these definitions, you will be in a rare state of control over yourself, and you'll have the power to achieve anything you desire. Think about this. If you dream of becoming rich, what's stopping you? I don't have enough money. I have a wife and a kid. I don't have the time. I can't do it because I don't have the knowledge. That is why I created these videos. If you read my book, you know that these are simply excuses. Watch the Special Olympics if you ever get the chance, or watch the movie Murder Ball to see how people with handicaps take control over their life and do something that by logic would count as impossible. So no excuses. There is one reason you are not yet living your dream and you are not yet a multimillionaire, and that reason is your habits. Habits can be hard to change, but habits are why so many people can't seem to stop smoking, get up in the morning, get rich, build a business, race cars, or do whatever it is they want the most. It's because of their habits. The only way to change a habit is by changing our values, and the only way to do that is by associating more pain to the value than pleasure to the habit. Allow me to explain. Values. Every human being is born without values. As infants, we have no social values, no religious, political, ethical, or moral values, and certainly no aesthetical values. The human value system is way too complex to describe in detail in this video, but I can walk you through the basics. It is well known that the human brain functions in a similar way to a computer, and that it's linked to different parts of our body via software. Like all computers and all computer software, our most fundamental design, the complete complexity of our universe and our very existence, comes down to 2 numbers, 1 and 0. As the world's most complicated design, our body is a collection of machines and programs which are controlled by our brain. Our brain processes every single item, name, face, idea, thought, and every piece of information we come in contact with during our daily routine for an average of 32,000 days, or 760,000 hours, 46 million minutes, or 2.7 billion seconds, before it is drained and shuts down. Our brain serves as the operating system to this giant computer we use every single day. Our body receives its orders from the brain, and the brain controls every movement we make, every breath we take, every blink, and every step. Everything you think your eyes see is first calculated by the brain. Therefore, our brain is a collection of computer programs that provide the instructions telling different parts of our body what to do and how to do it. I will not get into the details of brain chemistry and mind science, but I will say this. As computer software, your brain associates certain values to specific commands. These values are as basic as 1 and 0, or in other words, positive or negative, pleasure or pain, or gain or loss. Would you put your hand into the burning stove? A 1-year-old may be tempted to do so, but an adult would think that I had lost my mind by simply suggesting it. Every single value you have in your brain was programmed into your brain from birth. The foods you eat, the drinks you drink, the way you walk, talk, and breathe, the way you perceive good or bad, the way you use your eyes, hold your posture, and the way you think. You are the results of 13 years of programming. The reason I say 13 years in particular is because usually, with exceptions of course, as a child you do not yet understand the severity of your actions. Your moral values are not yet developed, and your brain looks to your guardians to copy these values. Therefore, if a single mother is raising her only daughter with the value men are evil, the daughter will most definitely grow up with that specific value, so her brain will associate men with pain. That is a fact. So until the time you turn 13, your brain associates positive and negative to whatever it is your parents told you was positive or negative, mixed, of course, with your own short experience with these values. If your mom and dad did a good job programming your mind to associate drugs with pain, you will most definitely, unequivocally never experiment with drugs until at earliest you turn 13. Let's assume you're 7 years old again. Your father, who you adore, most 7-year-olds want to be like their father, assuming the father is around and mother did not associate pain to father, had just gotten into a car crash with a local tough and greedy businessman. Since he did not have insurance, the court killed your father financially and put him in serious financial debt. You watched in pain as your father was crying over not being able to pay the fucking bills day and night, and every opportunity he got, as your father told you, "Son, money is the root of all evil." Only greedy, terrible people care about money. You also experienced the pain of watching your parents fight, cry, and beg because they had no money. A few years later, your parents got a divorce and fought over money before even discussing your custody. Everything was a mess, and it's all because of money. I can guarantee it, by age 13, when someone will ask you about money, you will state out loud and with confidence, money is evil and so are the people who chase it. Unless something happens in your adult life to dramatically change your values, you will grow older with these values, and values define habits, and habits are very hard to break. Like Warren Buffett said, the chains of habits are too light to be felt until they are too heavy to be broken. Once you turn a value into a habit, with every passing year, that habit becomes unbreakable, and you'll eventually reach a point where no one can convince you to change your habits. So this chain of events may not even play an important role in your adult life. It may be something that by the age of 35 you consider not a big deal, but the values are still there, hidden in your subconscious. Values are what drive us to do what we do on a day-to-day basis. Values are what we perceive as right or wrong, pain or pleasure, gain or loss. Are you a smoker? If so, why? As long as your brain can come up with a positive response to a negative thought, you will never stop smoking because you will never have the need to stop smoking. Your value system would have associated more pleasure to smoking than it would to quitting, and as long as this value remains the same, your brain would not have a reason to stop enforcing that habit. You will also notice that there are far more positives than there are negatives, which is another important element in the process of making and breaking habits. For every negative, our brain comes up with a positive statement, an excuse of sort to try to reason with the mind to convey a positive message and link it to the negative, therefore dismissing it. Your value system will define which of these values will have a bigger effect on you. For example, someone who grew up as the son of a doctor will not likely smoke because his familiarity with the health risks alone will prevent him from ever picking up the habit. Someone who is raised by frugal parents and understands the real value of a dollar also will be unlikely to smoke because of the financial cost involved. In this example, there are as many positives as there are negatives. Our brain will only act upon a decision when it feels the need to act. For as long as we perceive something as negative or positive and we are uninvolved, we do not smoke. There is no need for the brain to act on any decision, it stays neutral. Therefore, in the first example, when a human being smokes and he knows or understands there's a potential pain, negative, involved in his actions, he will seek to justify it. If the person is not involved, there's no need for action. The only time in which our brain will begin analyzing the situation will be when we become consciously aware of the potential risk of pain. That is why when you watch anti-smoking TV programs as a young smoking teen, your brain begins to run wild, attempting to create a balance between the positive and the negative. If you have a heart attack and the doctor tells you to stop smoking, or if you become pregnant, unless you're a complete idiot, you'll be forced to stop smoking. Your brain will link more pain to smoking, and you will most likely break the habit. And that's it. Once your brain links enough pain to smoking, your values will change. At that point, you will have permission from the brain to cease and desist, to terminate the habit, to stop smoking. Of course, you don't need to have a heart attack or to get knocked up to stop smoking. There is an easier way. I'll cover this in the habits section later on. Each human being develops a different value system. One value is stronger than the other, but still they're all linked. After a child touches fire, he suddenly realizes the pain is way stronger than the pleasure he gained by touching that shiny bright light. Now his brain adds a new value to his value system. At first, Mommy said fire is bad and fire can cause pain, but we didn't pay attention. Instead, we touched the fire with our finger, and now we know fire is extremely painful. It is not a type of pain we can adjust to justify the pleasure we get from it. Therefore, it is now embedded in our system. Touching fire equals pain and no pleasure. Now, this is not new information. With just a little study, you will see that this is the way the mind works as far as we know. Those values are the foundation of our human behavior. And how does that have anything to do with money? Why do you bore us with this scientific crap when we want to learn about getting rich? Because by understanding values and human behavior, you gain access into the human brain. Marketers spend billions of dollars connecting with people, understanding how consumers think and behave, and learning about the reasons why people buy their service or product. You first need to adopt a wealthy mindset, and you can't do that if your habits are the results of a poor person's value system, just like you can't expect to become a healthy athlete if your diet consists entirely of junk food and zero exercise. Getting rich and staying rich is mostly mental, and this video, much like God, is in the details, so stop complaining and move on. Habits. So, as we discovered, every human being develops a system of values, and each value affects a system by creating a form of subconscious or conscious routine we call a habit, or the result of an embedded value. To put it in other words, if you link more pleasure to smoking than not smoking, you will develop the habit of smoking. The longer you persist, the tougher it's going to be to break that habit. If your value system links more pleasure to learning about money than watching TV, you will spend your free time reading through financial statements and learning about money in the papers or in various books. If your value system links to the opposite, you'll avoid the act of learning about money and direct your focus to watching TV instead. If your ethical value system links pleasure to helping an old lady cross the street, every time you see an old lady in need, you will take the time to help her. You will go out of your way to do so even if you're in a hurry. That's just a way of saying our values create our habits, and the more we repeat our habits, the stronger they get, because these are embedded deep within our value system. So there you have it. You now know how to form and break habits. Every habit, everything you do, comes from our human need to gain pleasure or the need to avoid pain, and sometimes both. In this video, I only scratched the surface of value systems and habits. I have taken it upon myself to study it further, and I'm always striving to do better. But you are watching this because you want to achieve something, and I'm not going to bore you with theory. I only wanted you to understand why you have not yet achieved your desired goal. Now you know. There may be many answers to the question, why am I not rich yet? But I can tell you now, these reasons are all connected to what you learned here, and this is going to be hard to hear. The reason you are not yet successful is because you link more pain to doing the things that will make you successful than you do link pleasure to success. You probably think, no way. And I thought so too at first, but I soon discovered why. It wasn't that I didn't enjoy making money. I loved making money. I certainly linked more pleasure into making money than I did to being broke all the time. So what was it? I linked more pleasure to watching TV than I did to learning. I linked more pleasure to playing computer games than I did to working. I linked more pleasure to spending time online than I did to calling clients. I linked more pleasure to smoking than I did to exercising. These values created the following habits: into video games, procrastinating, overspending, oversleeping, spending valuable work time with friends, smoking, wishful thinking mentality. So how did I change? How did I eliminate these habits? Well, if you read my story, you probably know most of it. When I watched my business in Spain crumble because my stupid friends could not stop smoking weed, I immediately linked weed to negative or pain. My brain did it on a subconscious level, but the fact that I made the decision to quit broke the habit completely. I still remember walking down the street and thinking to myself, this is a sure way to failure. Everything I want in life will not be achieved if I keep smoking. I repeated it over and over again until I said to myself that notorious phrase, never again. A day later, I smoked again, and when I was done, I repeated that routine. I said to myself, I have to stop, I have to stop. When I met my mentor, he confirmed my opinion by saying, if you keep this up, there's no chance you'll achieve any of your goals. That really linked pain to smoking, and I stopped. For me, not being able to achieve my goals was much more painful than smoking, since I am a goal-oriented guy. For someone else, a simple commercial that shows a smoker speaking out of a hole in his throat will be a big enough shocker to make him or her quit. Everybody has his or her own trigger. What's yours? Every time your value system links more pain to doing something than it does to not doing something, you still need to take action. It is the never again statement that completely breaks the habit. It's the command from the brain to the body saying, I reached a decision. I will no longer follow this habit. And the more determined you are, the stronger the force that breaks the habit. So before we begin to break the habits that are stopping you from achieving and building wealth, let's get rid of the basic bad habits. These habits take away our precious time, take away our money, and put our health in danger. You are now getting into the action zone, so get ready to change your destructive habits and replace them with the habits of someone who is ready to build wealth, create a fortune, and make the transition from rats to riches. If you want to learn more about habits, I would suggest taking a course in human psychology or consumer psychology. Read Carl Jung or even Tony Robbins. Take the time to learn about the human brain. It's not a must, but if you enjoy reading and learning about human development and what drives human beings, I think you'll enjoy it. Character. Just because you are a character doesn't mean you have character. This famous phrase from the wolf, played by Harvey Keitel in Pulp Fiction, stuck with me for a long time after hearing it. What is character? How do you develop character? The Bible defines character as any behavior or activity that reflects the character of God. Your character actually is the sum of all your qualities, as they are portrayed to the outside world. In other words, your behavior is defined by the sum of your values and habits, so this is the final piece of the puzzle. Your behavior is directly associated with your character. In fact, your values define your habits, and your habits define your character. You should make it your goal to develop your character similar to that of whom you adore and respect, and make it your goal to get rid of all the negative traits that may negatively affect your behavior. Developing a winning character will be impossible if you don't go back to the basics. Developing a winning character means taking a long, honest look at your habits and personal values. If you don't like the way you're portrayed, the best way to change it is to change your character, defining new values and taking on different habits. By doing so, you'll make changes to your character. Without a strong character, you won't last a day in your quest to accomplish your dreams. You'll most likely quit when things get tough or when you encounter problems. To develop your character, you need a positive mental attitude. You first need to want it. Without really creating a strong desire for change, any change you make probably won't last long. Your desire to be honest, to be tough, to be energetic, to be a hard worker, or to be whatever it is you want to be needs to start with a great desire to achieve these traits. The desire is followed by a complete review of your values and habits, and then you must take the time to commit to a change. No one can do it for you. No one can tell you what to do or what character you should build. You should know that stuff by now. If you don't know, learn. Analyze yourself. Don't be paralyzed just because you think you don't know what you want. Get off your ass and figure this thing out. It's probably the most important decision you'll ever make, and if you're determined enough, you can spend a few hours on making that decision. So in short, decide upon some new values. Decide to adopt some new habits and fight yourself to change these values, just like you need to fight yourself if you decide to stop smoking or cut any other habit you've developed. It's not easy, but it's possible. Warren Buffett suggested you build a chart and write down the names of people you admire. Next to each name, write down a list of qualities you wish to inherit and habits you want to adopt and why you want to adopt them. On the other side of the chart, write down a list of habits and qualities you have that you hate and things you want to get rid of and why you want to get rid of them. Read through this chart for 1 minute every moment, and when you wake up for the next 60 days, and by the last day, you'll discover your mind has disregarded the negative qualities and you've begun to adopt the positive qualities you desired. It's that simple. But if you want to hear the truth, most people can't stick to something as simple as reading through a one-page chart for 60 days straight. Most people have a problem following their commitment. Most people who buy self-help books don't read them, and around 80% of all people who do read self-help books fail to follow up. I never understood that. Why not? You spend all that money on a book that's supposed to make your life better. You took all that time to read it, and now you do it for a few days and then stop. That's because most people are lazy. But know that if you want to achieve your dream, you have to disregard laziness. You need to stop procrastinating and start following up. Again, create your own chart based on the people you adore and use it only to keep track of your desires. If you just read it every day while working on a mental level on changing bad habits and replacing them for positive ones, by the end of the 60 days, you'll get rid of the negative traits and replace them for positive ones. After the 60 days, feel free to list some new habits and new traits you want to adopt. Keep working at it. Now that we covered the way people define you based on your values, habits, and your character, we will cover the different aspects of your personality that cause people to judge you. Believe it or not, most of the time the way people judge you makes a bigger difference than the way people define you, because when people see you for the first time, they rely solely on the following 3 traits of your personality to define who you are. Since they don't personally know you, they basically judge you based on the following traits: 1. Appearance, 2. Social status, 3. Persona. This is not a psychology video, it's a video about success, so I'm not going to get into too many details on these 3 traits. If you want to further investigate and make your own conclusions, I encourage it. Appearance. Your physical appearance has the biggest effect on the way people judge you. First impressions are important, and that's why the way you look is everything. If you look like a slob, unkempt, dressed poorly, with dirty fingernails, bad breath, and unshaven, people will perceive you and judge you based on your appearance. You can be the nicest, sweetest man or woman on the face of the earth, and people will still want nothing to do with you. The cruel fact of life is that people are attracted to people who look good, not just sexually, but professionally as well as personally. People want to do business with people who look good, smell good, are well groomed, and more importantly, good looking. If you're blessed with an amazing face, you have some of the work cut out for you. You need to look great. You need to be at 150% at all times, and if you are not blessed with a great face and a good body, you need to work, spend time and money, mostly time, making sure you look amazing. You need to make sure your physical appearance will never be a reason for someone not to trust you or refuse to work with you. Just like you groom yourself before going on a date, you should groom yourself when starting the day. Start the day like a supermodel, even if you're not a supermodel, and even if you don't have any meetings planned. If you treat your face and body like someone who looks amazing, you'll begin to think of yourself as attractive. And when you love the way you look, when you know you're hot, other people will see it when they look at you. The Japanese call it the power of the mirror. What you see in the mirror is what you manifest in the outer world. It's not a new piece of evidence. David Friedman also talks about it in his book, The Thought Exchange. It is well known that you need to feel good if you want good things to happen to you. If you dream of becoming a millionaire, you need to take into consideration you'll be dealing with people on a day-to-day basis. You will be out there in the spotlight, and if you look good, that fact alone will help you make a great impression and may make the difference between winning or losing. How can you convince an investor to invest in your project if you don't spend the time investing in yourself? So how do you keep your appearance at 150% all the time? 1. A healthy lifestyle. Eating well is not only essential, it's the most important part of your health. If you're unhealthy, the whole concept behind this book is worthless. You need to keep your skin healthy, work out regularly, and maintain a healthy weight. I recommend spending 30 minutes in the morning doing exercise. I watch CNBC in the morning, so it gives me a good excuse to exercise. When you work out in the morning, you turn on your metabolism, which helps you keep a healthy weight and a good body. Keep track of what you put into your body. Needless to say, smoking destroys your body. It kills your skin and gives you really bad body odor. Smoking is not only unhealthy, but it turns people off when they smell that disgusting smell of smoke coming out of your mouth when you speak. Overeating, too, is something to avoid. It will cause you to gain weight and oversweat, and probably makes the biggest change for the worse in your body and your physiology. 2. Clothing. The way you dress is everything. If you dress like a bum, people will think you are a bum. If you dress like a police officer, people will think you are one. Your dress is your costume. It is who you are when you walk out the door. In addition to good grooming and a healthy looking body, you need to dress for success. When I was homeless, I would dress like someone who owned businesses, someone who had a lot of money, and people on the street treated me in a similar manner. If you are a Larry David fan, you probably remember the episode when he was denied access to a jewelry store because he was dressed like a bum. In real life, people judge you based on your clothes. I can't begin to count the times where the way I was dressed made all the difference in the world in a specific transaction. No client would have signed up with my business if I'd been representing myself as homeless and dressed like a homeless person. In his book, The Law of Success, Napoleon Hill tells the story of how he broke through into the world of big publishing. He spent money he didn't have on an expensive suit and paraded in that suit across a famous publishing office every moment when the CEO was just heading outside. After a while, Mr. Hill approached the publisher and asked him to invest in his magazine. The publisher agreed and later acknowledged that what attracted him to help Mr. Hill was his amazing-looking suit. So dress for the job you want, and if you want to become a millionaire, you'll need to dress like one. If you want to become a movie star, you'll need to dress like one. Dress impeccably, and it will help you see yourself as the rich person that you are, and people who walk by you on the street, in a business meeting, or in a job interview will take notice. In fact, it's the first thing they notice. Grace Williams, a good friend and a great businesswoman, once taught me the power of looking sharp while being price conscious. She explained to me that accessories can sometimes play a bigger role than the clothes themselves. Your watch, shoes, and cufflinks can make a bigger impact on people than the clothes themselves. If you're as price sensitive as I was, try that approach, although I would recommend investing in great clothing in addition to expensive accessories. You need to invest in clothing if you ever plan to make it big, and great clothing is always a good investment. 3. Grooming. A man or woman who neglects to take care of his or her physical appearance is more likely to neglect taking care of business. If you want to impress people, you'll need to look good, and even if you weren't blessed with a beautiful face, you'll need to work harder to make sure you love what you see when you look in the mirror. You need to be well groomed, shaved, and looking sharp. Women should read Ivanka Trump's book, The Trump Card, to learn how to make a good first impression. Unfortunately, there are no good books for men that explain the force behind good business grooming, but again, it all needs to be tasteful. Don't go so far as to pluck your eyebrows or add too much grease to your hair. Be tasteful. Social status. What's in a name? More than you think. Your name says a lot, and today, with the power of the internet, people can search for you in a minute and find out everything they need to know about you. Your social status is basically equal to your reputation. People judge you based on the word on the street. If you're unknown and no one has ever heard of you, that's a good place to start from. If you have a bad reputation and are known as someone who is untrustworthy, that's a bad place to be in, and you'll have to work harder. And if you are related to someone who has influence and power, or even just share their same last name, you are off to a great start. Warren Buffett suggests you act on a day-to-day basis as if every decision you make will be posted on the front page of tomorrow's newspaper. If you think you'll approve of that news report, keep going. If you know that such a news story will be detrimental, watch out and think twice before acting. You want people to know your name is trustworthy, as someone worth knowing, as someone who can help them get what they want. But if you choose to scam people and maybe make a few dollars, your name will be blacklisted and no one will ever trust you again, even if you never go to jail, which is unlikely. Persona. One of the more important aspects of looking rich is developing the physiology of a rich man or woman. You don't need a budget for this, nor do you need to invest a lot of time doing it. Your physiology is basically represented by the way you walk, talk, and speak. And if you think it's a joke and probably meaningless, consider this. If you ever met someone with a great physiology, you'll never forget that person. It's almost like they're addictive. Look at Donald Trump. Look at the way he walks, talks, and uses his body. He's got the physiology of someone who has a great amount of self-confidence. Look at the way people like Brad Pitt, George Clooney, Angelina Jolie, and other elite superstars walk, talk, and conduct their physiology. I took it upon myself to study the physiology of successful people and discovered if I adopt some of their characteristics, I will begin thinking in the same manner. If you ever have a need to boost your confidence in less than 5 minutes, try the following exercise. Pump up your chest, stand tall, straighten your back, broaden your shoulders, walk like a fucking lion for 2 minutes, and see how you feel. Instead of looking down on the ground, look up. Look straight ahead. Instead of having a fearful expression, take on the facial expression of someone who knows what he or she is doing. When you talk, speak with confidence. Speak in a deep voice and speak louder than you normally would. Keep your hands in a powerful position. Watch yourself in the mirror. In fact, take a few minutes to do these exercises right now and witness a change in the way you feel. Your physiology affects the way you feel and, of course, the way other people feel about you. I once entered the home of a very unconfident woman. She was so weak and fragile that the first thing she said when I walked in the door was, "Wow, you have some serious confidence." Needless to say, she found me more attractive than I really was at the time. I filled a void, and if she had been a business partner, I would have been able to get any deal I would have proposed. I'll never forget it, and I know it's embedded in my personality. I now walk, talk, and act like someone who has a lot of money, and the money comes flying in. So now you understand that people who don't know you judge you based on your appearance, social status and persona, or your physiology, and once they get to know you, they define you based on your values, habits, and character. It's important to know yourself at a level that allows you to control each and every one of these traits. If you can't control yourself, who is in control of you? Take control and start improving the different aspects of your personality if you want people to treat you and perceive you as what you're working towards, not where you're coming from. Exercise. Prepare a list of all your bad habits, specifically habits that are stopping you from becoming wealthy, such as spending recklessly, smoking, weight problems, whatever you think is causing you pain and is avoiding you from achieving your goals. And start working on your mental self. Hang that list on the wall and read it every day. Meditate, visualize, do whatever it takes to get rid of those habits by replacing them with other habits. Linking pleasure to a positive habit and a pain to a negative habit is easy. If you get the chance, read the book Personal Power by Anthony Robbins to better understand this concept of neuroassociations. Good luck! See you on the next video. Usher Morgan, author of From Rats to Riches. Visit www.FromRatsToRiches.com to download a free copy of the ebook.